This is a review on Bats by William W. Johnstone. Yep. Here's the synopsis, guys. They've flown north from Central and South America, appearing one day in the southern wetlands in the U.S., like ominous ink stains in the twilight sky. With each sunset, more appeared, first hundreds, then thousands. Massing into a great black cloud of terror, the vampire bats were beating their wings in time with their panicked heartbeats of the towns below. No one knew how to stop them, as they fell onto their prey like dark, deadly shadows. But someone had to find a way, because somewhere in the night, they had become a threat to more than wild animals and livestock. Somewhere in the night, madness took hold, as these vampire bats developed a taste for human blood, and the feasting had only just begun. So, this book, Bats, was interesting. Without giving too much away, I will probably be doing spoilers, so I apologize if you intend to read this book, but yeah. So I'd give it 2 stars, and that's not a bad grade, you know. I was thinking maybe 3. I was like maybe 2.5, you know, because it was a fun read, even though it got a little political at times, and the characters were kind of like sympathetic. They're not sympathetic. That's the word. Oh my god. They're not sympathetic at all. And yeah, it's like it feels like the main character is written from a hermit's perspective. Like the hermit thinks he's a hero and stuff like that, and his crazy thinking is totally valid and stuff like that. So reading this book is kind of strange in a sense because like I don't know, the main character I guess is likable. I mean, they don't make him unlikable except for the times where he says stuff about, you know, how people deserve to die if they don't protect themselves and stuff like that. The police have no, you know, they're all like, hey, you don't support us, so you deserve to die, and stuff like that. So that was weird. There was one scene I really liked in the book. I mean, nothing really scares me per se, but one thing I really liked about the book was there was this one scene where I think this anchorman named either Phil or Paul or something like that, something Stone. I don't remember what his name was, but he was a reporter, and he totally ignores, even though everything is saying don't come to this area. It's infested with mutant bats, you know. Oh, by the way, Bats is about mutant bats. This reporter basically ignores everything what the guards, the National Guard, is telling them. They basically say, you know, don't go past this, you know, roadblock. You know, if you do, then you're going to be screwed. And they say, hey, we have rights, you know, in totally the, you know, liberal fashion, I guess. Like, oh, we have rights. We deserve to be, you know, doing this. And basically the reporter is trying to find proof that they don't exist. That the bats are just, you know, your average bat and stuff like that. And he doesn't believe that there's mutant bats flying around killing people. He thinks it's all a fraud. So he's all like demanding to get across the roadblock, saying he has rights and stuff like that. And they let him because they have no authority to stop them. And then they go to the woods, and lo and behold, well, first he gets out of his car like an idiot, and slams his door behind him with the keys in his pocket to the car, leaving the other two stranded in the car when he, out of nowhere, gets attacked by bats, which is not really out of nowhere, but, you know, you saw it coming. But the bats swarm on him, they eat him alive, tear out his eyes, and it was pretty vivid, you know. His face is mutilated and just disgusting, and the other reporters were stuck in the car, you know, and they couldn't get out until the hero, Johnny, comes and saves him. Of course, I was kind of hoping the scene would continue because not one likable character was harmed in this book, and none of the characters are really likable per se. Like no one serious in the book was killed. You know, the only people that were killed were people that the narrator didn't like. You know, like people who didn't arm themselves and protect themselves or heed warnings, and people who, you know, cut people off at traffic lights and stuff like that. But no one was really endangered throughout the whole book. None of our main characters were really in danger. So it was hard to feel for anybody, I guess, because there was no constant. I'm really explaining this badly. I need to get better at reviews. That's what I've learned. But there's no sense of dread or anything like that in this book. So if you're looking for a book that will scare you, it's not here. But it was a funny read. It had its funny moments, and ultimately, the ending was just like it could have ended like, this is how wide the book is. It could have ended like right here, you know, but it didn't. It kept going, and yeah, it kept going. Basically, what I'm talking about is there's this scene where they napalm. Yeah, I think it's napalm. They basically, these bats are roosting, or whatever bats do. They say that a lot in the book. The bats are roosting in this abandoned building, and there's thousands of them. And, you know, they think to eliminate the bats, they're just going to call it a napalm strike, and blah, blah, blah. There's some loops and stuff like hurdles they have to go through in order to get this airstrike called, and eventually they do it illegally, which I don't understand how they did, but they did. And sorry, my dog over there is licking himself. I got two dogs. I'll show you them in a minute. But basically, what was I talking about? So basically, got distracted, so easily distracted. They call in a napalm strike, and basically it wipes out all the bats, except for some bats. And I guess there's like a few thousand more left. And then they start really attacking everybody. And by now, you would think people would get the gist that, you know, you shouldn't go camping in tents, or, you know, like they even blame people for living in mobile homes. That, you know, I don't understand that part, but, you know, they were just totally like unsympathetic, these main characters, just unsympathetic characters. And then the main characters were never in harm's way, so there was no sense of dread. You didn't lose anyone special, you know. No one was that you're supposed to like was in danger. So, anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself, or not ahead of myself, but I don't know. Anyways, the book could have ended after the napalm came in and wiped out the bats. You could have just said the bats were wiped out. I mean, it would have been anticlimactic, but the book decided to continue a little bit. It introduced a new character out of nowhere, Dr. Bajet, I think his name is Bajat. It might be Baja or Bajet. I don't know, but I'm not good with names. But anyways, he's a South American scientist who studies bats, and he says this event has happened before, where this is a little bit crazy. They foreshadow this, and they don't they didn't foreshadow it like I should be saying, like they kept it hidden throughout the last remaining chapters of what this event is. And he keeps saying this event's gonna happen, and all the main characters are like, oh, you can't be serious. The event, it's like, just tell us what it is. This is irritating. Like during the last, I don't know, 10 chapters, I was like really struggling with the book. But I mean, it was a fun read, especially in the beginning, but it kind of got repetitive, like a little bit, and but it was an entertaining read, so that's why I give it 2 stars. But anyways, again, getting ahead of myself, what happens is bats, like not the mutant bats, but like bats all over the world, come in and start fighting the mutant bats. And you would think, well, the mutant bats are mutants. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, all this. Well, they said they're not faster, but that's why the little bats win, is because they're faster and they're more coordinated with their attacks. Like bats aren't coordinated to do anything. Like they're talking about, wow, the precision of their strikes is amazing. It's like they're small bats, like fruit bats and big brown bats, which are like this big. They're not big at all. They're common here in Michigan. So, yeah, just it was a very silly ending. It ended with the little bats taking out the big bats, and yeah. I mean, there's a little bit of a cliffhanger where a little bit of the bats survive the attack, and they're mating and just trying to get strong and create a new army, But overall, it was a silly ending. The hermit guy, his main character is named Johnny, and I did not care for him very much. I mean, there's moments where he was just, like he's really well respected for not really much of a reason, like this is a very bad review. I'm sorry. It's all over the place. I'm talking about the beginning at the end of the video, like what's wrong with me? Anyways, yeah, the only character I really cared for was Blair, and she ends up basically marrying Johnny at the end of the book and adopting 2 kids that families were killed because of negligence, because they didn't bother to protect their homes with guns and stuff like that. And this is a really pro-gun book. I have nothing wrong with that, but at times it kind of felt like he was shoving his beliefs down your throat. But then again, it was the 80s, and it was a different time then, so I shouldn't complain. I read the book, and I thought it was a fun read. If you're looking for something, to spend, I don't know, maybe a few days. I don't know how fast you guys are at reading, but it took me 2 weeks to read this book. But yeah, it was ultimately a pretty good book. Well, I guess my review doesn't shed that kind of light on it, does it? 2 stars. It was good enough to keep my attention. It had its moments, like the reporter scene where the reporter gets eaten alive. That was a pretty vivid scene. I like that scene. I wish there was more of that in this book, but there wasn't. There was a lot of repetitive eyes being ripped out and throats being cut out and stuff like that. So it was just, yeah. But I want to apologize for being all over the place. These reviews will get better in the future the more I do them. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope this review wasn't too scrambled. You got a good sense. I rate this book 2 stars. It's about bats, that attack humans, and then they get wiped out by a napalm strike and littler bats. So, I guess you kind of should have seen that ending coming. Like, it was a little outrageous, sure, but it's like, I still don't understand how a brown bat can go up against a mutant bat. Like, they describe these things as huge. Like, they're huge. They're so big, and they squeak and slobber. They all carry rabies and all this junk. There's even this scene where these characters become like rabid zombie-like creatures. There's a cult in this book. I forgot to mention that. There's a cult in this book that worship the devil, and it's like the first half of the book's kind of about them, and then that just disappears. It never really happens in the second half of the book, like event never happened. But yeah, there was rabid people, rabid people, not rabbit people, but rabid people attacking people. So that happened. Overall, William W. Johnstone is a decent writer, He used some... I'm not one to judge writing. I'm writing my own book right now, but again, I'm kind of an amateur when it comes to literature. So, an amateur when it comes to literature. That's a tongue twister. But anyways, 2 stars. I wanted to give it 3, but face the facts, I'm a nice person, and that's why I want to give it a 3, because I don't ever want to give books low stars, but it was a 2-star book, and that's not bad. It kept my interest a little bit. It was a time killer, so, but overall, it was okay. And yeah, I think I already said my goodbyes, but I will say them again. This is Spooky Noodles, and I do book reviews, and I occasionally do narrations. So if you're into those type of things, well, give me a shot. Yeah. And as I promised, here's one of my dogs. Sorry about the messy bed. We just moved in. But that's her. She's a cutie. I said there was a he, but he's all the way at the door, so yeah. Anyways, this has been Spooky Noodles Reviews, and I hope you enjoyed. Alright? Bye-bye.